Good evening. I'm Fujimoto from Tokyo. Thank you very, very much. It's a great, great honor for me to be selected as a Marcus Prize and to be here joining to the students, working together, eating a custard, drinking local beer. It's really amazing experience. And yeah, of course, here it is really cold. But it reminds me my hometown. My hometown is in Hokkaido, the northern island. And it is almost the same coldness as here. So it is in such a every different kinds of a meaning I'm really enjoying. And today I will talk about 1 hour about my projects. And the title is Between Nature and Architecture. It's something really fundamental. And I like such a fundamental thing, starting from fundamental things, but gradually getting to be the very new, something strange for the future, reaching to such a, how to say, amazing point. And I like to start from my background. Yeah, as I said, I was grown up in Hokkaido. It's a northern island and full of nature. It's like the left image. And my home was in the countryside, so the surroundings was a beautiful nature, forest, and growing up. And after my high school, I came to Tokyo to go to the university. And it's, yeah, the right hand, almost the opposite. From the beautiful nature to the really ugly landscape. But I enjoyed, I felt really comfortable in Tokyo. And I was so surprised why I'm so comfortable in such an ugly landscape. That was the very, very starting point of my architecture thinking. Because, yeah, this is so opposite. But for me, both of them are sharing some quality of the space. And it's, in one sentence, both of them are made by many, many, many smaller things coming together, creating the comfortable, cozy spaces. And the Hokkaido nature, the many trees, tree branches, leaves, and tiny grasses or vegetations, every such kind of a smaller things are creating the quality of the space. And in Tokyo, no natural things anymore. Many small, artificial, ugly things, but the kind of a similar feelings, creating the cozy feelings, and you're almost the same scale as your body. So one hand is really natural. The other hand is really artificial, but the same quality of the space and the same way to make the space. That was the surprising moment for me to find out such a similarity on this opposite side. So from that on, I was thinking about how we can find out such kind of amazing similarities or amazing point between natural things and artificial things. That was the starting point. So yeah, this is the image of my home, the garden. It's almost like not like a garden, but like a forest. And then this is my neighbor, recent neighbor. Anyway, I like to show at the very, very starting point. It's my early works, really early works, just after my school, when I was maybe 25 years old. This project is for the idea competition to design kind of a new concept of the house, new concept of the residence. So I tried to create the kind of a mixture of the house and the Tokyo urban situation. So this is the map of the Tokyo, and this point is exactly the point where I was living at that time. This is near Shinjuku. This is a Shinjuku high-rise building area. But you can see around here, the urban fabric is like a chaos. Many, many two-story wooden houses are coming together, and small street is winding. That was the place I was living at that time. And my daily life at the time was a kind of a really lazy day, waking up in very late, almost not morning, in the afternoon, something, and then starts to think about architecture. But then, of course, very soon I like to go out, walk around in such a winding, exciting street, doing nothing, just, of course, thinking about architecture, but, of course, thinking about nothing. And just walking around. It was very big fun because it's endless process. You will find something new every moment, every steps, you will find something new. And sometimes stop by the cafe. Of course, I brought my sketchbook because I have to think about architecture. So sitting on the cafe, make a sketch, or just, how to say, doing nothing, and then starts to walk again. During such kind of a process of the everyday, daily life, I just was dreaming, if I could have one more space, one more room for me, not only here, but around here, small space is okay, just for, I don't know, shower, or sleeping, or eating, such kind of a really minimal spaces spreading around in this urban fabrics. That could be really exciting house. Starting from here, get a cafe, and then sleep, take a shower, and do the architecture sometimes. So I was just dreaming about such a life. And then I thought that could be the possible visions of the future house. House is not necessary to be the one box or one object, but could be spread throughout the city. And even the walking moment, walking period could be part of your house. Then the house is not the architecture anymore. It's more like a melting into the city. And sometimes you will stop by. But this red line is, for example, one house. Of course, it is always changing. If you walk this direction, this is part of your house. And this green is another house, another guy is walking. And sometimes, yeah, me and then another guy just cross over on the street. Then your house area and his house areas are overlapping on the city. Such kind of a new definition of the house I was dreaming. So I made a proposal like this. It's really conceptual, but it's like a, how to say, really conceptual simulations of how we can live beyond the independent houses or melting into the city. So that was the basic program of the presentation. And yeah, this is the dining, I don't know, maybe the sleeping or bathroom and study area, just sleeping areas, and cafes and shops, including such kind of urban fabric, urban infrastructures within your house. So in these proposals, the architecture is not the architecture anymore. It's the architecture and the cities are melting together. And your areas of the house is always changing. This diagram is showing how the different houses are. And it's always changing, sometimes getting bigger and sometimes getting smaller. And it's also include kind of an accident on the street. Because if you are within the house, no accident is happening. You're calm and safe and peaceful. But if you try to include the street urbanscapes, then it is more unexpected and exciting things. So within your house, some other things is coming in. So it's, for me, I was young, so that could be some new definition of architecture, I thought. So that was the basic concept of this house. But of course, this is one of the very, very basic training, how we try to think about architecture in a very different way. But it was the very, very basics for me to think about Tokyo as a new definition of architecture. And this is a typical street view of the Tokyo. And you will see how these smaller things is creating your atmosphere. And the scales of the street is very small. It's about 4 meters wide and maybe 6 meters high. So the scale of the street is like a scale of architecture. So your house is also very small. But if you go out of the house and go into the street, it's not like going out to the very big opening space, but just a small continuation from your room to the bigger room. So my impression of Tokyo is such an endless, half interior, half exterior spaces spreading around. And sometimes it's getting more smaller, 2 meter wide, something like this. It is a private plot, but you can walk through. So it's a half private, half public. You are between half private and public areas, between architecture and urbanscape, between inside and outside. Every moment you feel such kind of in-between feelings. And sometimes it's not so comfortable, but sometimes it's really comfortable. So you could choose the comfortable areas as you like. That is the definition of the house. And you will see these kind of smaller things, small greens, small post, small sculpture, I don't know. Everything, small pavement, everything is just making the environment. It is like a forest, I think, I felt. Super artificial, almost nothing natural, but the environment made by these kind of artificial smaller things are very similar to the forest experience. But anyway, yeah, from this project, I found out we could find something between city and architecture, or between privacy and public, or something between inside and outside. We could control such kind of the definitions, really strong definitions, sometimes opposite definitions, and then try to find something new between such an opposite things. That was the very, very early, but one of the starting point of my proposal, between city and architecture. But another proposal at almost the same period, when I was just alone, not doing the architecture firm, no commissions, no project, just dreaming about architecture. But after 5-6 years from the graduation from the university, I was thinking about, like a Le Corbusier, I'd like to make really historical, conceptual house proposal, like a domino of the Corbusier. Try to think about really conceptual, but the new definition of the house again. And then this is it. This is a house. And it doesn't look like a house, but it's a house. And the main point is many, many layers of the plates, like staircases. And the gap of each plate is 35 centimeters at that time. Then you could sit on one step, or the double size 70 centimeters, so it's almost like this table. Or you can use the layers of these shelves as shelves, or you can walk up. So whatever you like, you can do it. There is no functions in it, but or full of functions, depending on your behaviors, depending on your reactions to this space. Every different kinds of functions is coming up. So that was the concept of this. So in here, I was thinking about something between furniture and architecture, or we could say between landscape and architecture. So try to find out something between the architecture and some other things to explore throughout the architecture field. This is the drawings, and you will see various different behaviors is possible, and interaction is possible. So no given functions, but you could find your own functions from this landscape. And actually, this is an image I took in Vietnam a few years ago. This is a typical Asian market, and a lot of things, almost chaos. But I was surprised, even in such a chaotic situation, people could find her own comfortable space in a really creative way. Sleeping. This is a market, so she has to sell everything, but she gave up already and just sleeping. It's amazing things, because how we can make such a comfortable space by architectural design. But in here, no architectural design, just a chaotic landscape. But even in such a chaotic landscape, people, through the interaction between the space and your body, people could find the space. So I found out if you can provide such kind of a nice hint or nice inspirations or nice landscape, then people's inspirations could find the functions. And every time the functions is changing maybe, but such kind of improvisations of the peoples are so inspiring for me. So then I try to create such kind of a no functions but a landscape-like house. So yeah, you could say this is a really lazy woman, but for me, she's a really creative, lazy woman. And I like to say this is, again, my home garden. The situation is so different, but for me, it is very, very similar. It's like a natural landscape, and you will find many, many things. Usually, we don't know how to use it. But if you are inside of this kind of a forest, small forest, then gradually you will get a kind of inspirations, and you start to improvise, do the improvisations to behave fitting to this kind of environment. And this is given chaotic, not chaotic, organized, but almost full of the diversities. Now at the beginning, you don't know how to use it or how to behave it, but gradually the interaction starting. So again, such kind of artificial, chaotic situations and the forest-like natural situations is sharing some quality of the space. So that was another starting point of my architectural thinking, to think about something between furniture, and architecture, landscaping, and to think about the functions beyond the functions, or to think about the basic relationship between your behaviors, your body, and space. That was another starting point. So this is a very beautiful model, but I was thinking, in my mind, I was imagining these kind of a chaotic situation could happen in these beautiful platforms. So architecture is just like to provide the platforms, and the behaviors and activities on it could be more and more powerful and almost overwhelming the architecture itself. So between furniture and architecture, or between architecture and landscape, or between, I don't know, functions and some other things. So I was talking about such kind of a between something and some other things. It is the very, very basic starting point to think about something new. If you have the concept inside and outside, this is two different things. But if you like to think about something new, you can just think about something between inside and outside. Nobody knows what it is, but there is something between inside and outside. Or between city and architecture, we couldn't say what it is, but we could imagine what it is, what is something between city and architecture. Then you could try to find out some strange definitions or strange ideas of architecture, or between nature and architecture, between furniture and architecture, or architecture and landscape. That is the basic concept going on under my every project. And then I'd like to show some other examples, some projects. And so the basic idea is very simple, to think about the relation nature and architecture, treat them as equals. Sometimes natural landscape, artificial landscapes are quite similar and could be replaced to each other or could be mixed together. And then to think about something between, and to think about the basic relationship between your behaviors and the space. So the basic concept is really, really fundamental and basic. But then from that, we could think about some crazy stuff, crazy things by your imaginations. And sometimes one idea is making one thing, but the same ideas on some other occasions, some other site, some other cultures, then it expands or it grows in a different way to be a different architectural proposals. So that kind of a simple, basic concept, strong, basic, fundamental concept, and the diversities of the proposals are possible. So the first one is the Serpentine Pavilion. It's a really great things to be selected as a designer because, yeah, as you know, it's after such a big names and huge guys, it was a big pressure how to do differently from other people's. But finally, we found out, anyway, we can do what we can do. And we can do what we have been doing. We can do just what we will do in future. So it's very simple. I was thinking about the whole experience of my career. So collecting them together, but not just summarize it, but to try to bring it to, or through it to the future. And this is the final proposal. And this is the Serpentine Gallery. Behind this cloud, you can see the silhouette. And the front yard will be the site, surrounded by beautiful greens. It's in the middle of the park. So the one point I was thinking about is how we can make artificial things surrounded by such a beautiful nature, and how we can make a nice relationship or new relationships between nature and architecture. That was the one point. And another point is the basic requirement, basic function of this place is the cafe. So many people just come and visit and take a coffee and spend times, the 5 minutes or 1 hour. So they will behave, they will spend the time in a various different way. So how we can allow people or let people do as they like in a diverse behavior, that was another point. So how to create the nice interactions between the people's behaviors and the space. Then our answer is to make such a grids, many grids. And it is this is the Serpentine Gallery building. It's an old structure, and this is a site. And this is our proposal. It's like a strange, irregular shaped cloud. And all the structures are made by the thin steel pipes, the 20 millimeter steel pipes. And the grids, small one is 40 centimeter, and the big one is 80. And they're different from the previous project, 35. Previously, I chose 35. This time, the 40. Because I thought the British people are bigger than the Japanese people. So make the size bigger. But anyway, then we set the grids. And mix the big grids and the small grids together to create such kind of the changing densities of that. And it has a space, one space, and allow, I think, 100 people coming together to have a cafe or lecture or such kind of various different activities. But you couldn't see where inside and where outside. This is part of inside. You could come in, and then you will see some people sitting behind these layers of the grids, and then you could go out from these directions. And it has a roof, but it's transparent, discs layered, and tiling on it. So it's almost like a transparent cloud. And the definition of the space are only made by the densities of the frames. If you have the densities of the frames more dense, it's getting more opaque. And if you have less dense area, it's more getting transparent. So not like a usual wall structure and window, it's a very clear divisions. But in here, no such a clear divisions. Some areas is getting more and more transparent, and then, again, getting more and more opaque. So, and if you walk around, the impression of the densities is changing because of the thickness of the frames is changing. So you will feel you are just surrounded by the cloud-like air, and some area is more dense and cozy, surrounded space, and some area is more transparent, well connecting to the surrounding greens. So to create such kind of a dynamic relationship between the surroundings nature and the interior spaces, that was the main point of the main ideas of these frames. And this is the photos of the site when I visited the first time to the Serpentine Gallery. That was the end of November. So all the leaves has gone, and to show such an amazing diversities, amazing complexities of the natures made by simple rules of nature. I have been fascinated by such an amazing quality of the nature, simplicity and complexity, especially on this site. I found it. So I try to recreate or re-understand such kind of a complexity, simplicity by artificial method. So try to create such kind of a new order or new way to make the complexity or richness of the space. And our answer was this great. Here you will see so many layers. It's creating opaqueness, but on the edge, it is like a more softness. And this woman is sitting on the frames, but it's almost like a floating on the air. And of course, you will see many people's inside, behind the layers. So such kind of a, how to say, softness and really complex richness are created by a simple grid system. The grid is really simple, artificial, strict order. From a really, really ancient ages, people have been using such a really strong artificial order. But if you use in a smaller size and such a soft way, then it is getting really closer to the natural quality of the complexity. So I try to make nice contrast between such a really strict artificial order and a really complex, almost chaotic natural order together. So in here, such kind of a harmonized dualities are realized. And you can walk up, or you could come in through here. And inside is something like this. And this is a stepping area. So on the case of the lecture, many people can sit on. And this is the flat areas, but then dense areas, transparent areas, and something like that. And sometimes, yeah, even such an old ladies trying to climbing up, inspire her to behave in a different way. And this is one of my early sketches. And of course, as I said, I was thinking about how we can provide the diversities of the field for people to behave in a different way. So I was thinking about such kind of many, many steps, staircases like things, but I couldn't find a way to make like a space. The staircase itself is just a staircase, and how to make a space was a big challenge. And gradually, then we tried to make models. It's a physical model, and you will see on the exhibition space, yeah, some of such physical models. Not this one, but this size models, to try to find out some new solutions, new forms. And it was very short period, design period. It's almost 1 month. We have to decide the basic directions. And it's a big things, of course, a very important project for us, but we have only 1 month. So we worked very hard, and we make a sketch and send them. But the directors, there are 2 directors, the woman, the Julia Peyton-Jones, and the man, the Hans-Ulrich Obrist. They're really powerful directors. And when we send the sketches and make a phone conferences, and they say, no, this is not. Why? Because this is too much like Fujimoto. Reminds several previous projects. We don't like to have that. Okay. So next week, we send another sketches. They say, no. Why? This is too much not Fujimoto-like. Okay. So where to go? How to make it? We discussed, or they, get angry. No, this is not acceptable. This is not the quality of the Serpentine pavilions, and something like that. And we try to do again and again. Finally, we found out something between Fujimoto and not Fujimoto-like things. And anyway, that was a really tough work. And after, of course, we fixed the basic directions, it's like many grids. So we designed by computer, of course, but on the screen, you could just see many, many lines, and you couldn't see any space or any shapes. So we decided to make the models, and of course, should have to be the big model, because we have to keep the dimension of the elements. So finally, it is the 1:10 scale model. It's quite big, 2.5 meter by 2.5 meter. And all the steel bar are made by the timber sticks, 2 millimeter sticks, glued to each other one by one to make it. It took a lot, but many students come together to make it like this, because it has thousands of joints. So one by one, it's made. And finally, we understand what we have been designing. And fortunately, it was not so bad. So, okay. But of course, some update is necessary. So I myself has a scissors and cut some sticks or add some grids on it to see, and again to change, to finalize the shapes. And every time I change, my staff follow me and then check the position and feedback to the computer and send it to the London for the structural engineer to calculate. And again, we get the feedback and add or something like that. So that was a very, I would say, nice interactions between the computer things and the physical things in Tokyo, London, and finally we decided. Anyway, it's done, and the weather was nice, fortunately, because the roof was not so perfect. So the opening period, 1 week, no rain. It's really exceptional in London. And yeah, that is the opening period. And you will see how transparencies is changing translucencies and sometimes opaqueness. And if you walk 2-3 meters, the whole thing is changing, different. And we put some acrylic plates to block the wind. But of course, it didn't work too much. But anyway, it's like a wall. And it works to reflect some kind of the atmosphere, the ghost of the surroundings. So I didn't intend to make it like a spatial thing, but finally it works very much. And this is the photos of the opening lecture. So different situation happened, like a mountain of the people made by the frames. And the dogs. For dogs and for children, it's really paradise because they don't care about the grids. They can move as you like. So it's like a labyrinth for them. So it's very, very. I like to behave like a child in architecture because it's really pure, innocent, just a pure reaction and interaction with the space. So I like these photos. And I'd like you to show the shadows of the frames on the floors. It's so complicated, but it's so amazing. And sometimes the shadows and the real frames are melting together to create the whole environment surrounding you, not only the above, but under your foot. It's the whole cloud is happening. So that was really, really amazing point. And in the evening, it's light up. So this is the guard to keep protecting the whole pavilion, but they are just taking the photos. So in here, I think in a sense, this pavilions has the essence, the really condensed essence of my architectural thinking. It's a kind of something between architecture and landscape, or furniture architecture, inside out, outside feelings, nature and architecture, to create the new definition of the structure, new definition of inside and outside, or new definition of the wall itself. And I'd like to show another private house project. It's deeply relating to the Serpentine Pavilion, but this is before the Serpentine. It's a private house. Again, it's really thin, transparent, but it's in the middle of Tokyo. And I think it relates deeply in Tokyo because the whole house are made by small plates of the floors and really thin columns. And you will see how these kind of Tokyo situations and this house itself are quite similar. So different. This is beautiful, this is ugly, but still the whole thing is very similar. How the situation, how the environment are made are quite similar. So that is the quality of this space. The basic idea is very simple. The plot is quite small, so we talked with the client how to do with that. If you try to make a maximum size of the space, but it's just a small space, small room. So we gave up the size of the space, but we try to create the diversities of the space. So we divide the plot in smaller pieces like this. This is 1.4 meter by 1.4 meter. Or the biggest floor is 2.5 by 2.5. So it's quite small. But if you have 20, 30 different plates in different levels, you could have a huge diversity. And then even small, but you could choose different places depending on your feelings, or different areas, different height, or different elevations. And then you could get different kinds of richness, we thought. So that was the proposal. And then the client, fortunately, he really deeply understands the concept. And he said, oh, it's a good idea, and then let's do it. And finally, it did it. So you will see this is a 1.5 meter by 2.5 meter. It's like almost like a table. So the whole house is made by the stacked furnitures. So it's something between furniture scales and architecture scales relating to the Serpentine. But in this case, it's more like not too much regular repetitions. It has some gaps, so you can sit on, or you can use it as a kind of putting the waters on it. Or if you're going up, you have a bookshelves. We called this area library. So small library in your house, and then the reading space, and terrace, and something in the bathroom above. So the varieties of the areas is so rich. So that is the kind of changing the viewpoint and to find out the new quality of the life. That was the ideas. And after this house NA, we got some ideas of using the frames to be the field of your life. This kind of a really thin frame is like a forest, small forest, and you are like in the middle of the forest, artificial forest. So when I have the project in Spain to design a summer house, I thought it could be, be a nice chance to extend the ideas of the framed forest in a different way. And this is a really beautiful mountain areas in the middle of the Spain. And so the proposal is this really huge frames, but this time not the steel frames, but made by the timber frames. So almost the same ideas, similar ideas, but so different impression, so different things is happening. If you have the different materials, then one idea is jumping to the different phases. And the basic idea is, this is Spain, so strong sunlight is coming in. So how we can make the shelter or the shadows or shadings against the sunlight. So the densities of the frames could make kind of a nice shadings and still taking the proper sunlight. That was the first inspiration. So creating such kind of shadings by timber structures, so the whole shadings is the main structures of the house. Sharing the structures and shadings, and then to create the territories for you. And then this is a model. So you will see such kind of irregular shape of the timbers. It's like a primitive hut-like things is happening. And inside of these structures, we have a glass box. So the interiors are defined by the glass box, but your perception of the space are defined by these timber frames beyond the glass surface. And then sometimes you can walk up. So this is like a tree house made by the artificial trees, like things. Here, this is interior space. So you will see the glass surface, but then many timber frames shading the sunlight properly. And we have not only interior space, but under this frame, we have a terrace, outside terrace. So here, outside, inside is more blurring. And most of the areas are covered by these timber frames. So it is, in a sense, of course, the whole boundaries are blurring into the surroundings. So it's relating to the Serpentine, but so different meanings and so different situations. But still, it is, I think, strong proposal. And now this is almost the final phase of the design, and they will start construction very soon. So this is, I believe, for sale. So if you are very interested in and like to have a nice summer house in Spain, it could be a nice chance to do it. Anyway, and this is a very different, but the same ideas. So sometimes one idea is expanding to something beyond my expectations, my imaginations. It is a project in Middle East, the first project for me to do something in Middle East. And I was invited to the competition to design a really long 1.5-kilometer shopping street. It's huge. It's like a Champs-Élysées of Paris. One designer designed a Champs-Élysées. It's good. So we started to do that. This is that street, 1.5 kilometers. And the long street, the whole area is shopping. So I was thinking how to deal with that. And I get the simple inspirations from a local culture, the Bedouin tent, this kind of shape. Well, that could be nice. And of course, another inspiration is the climate, strong sunlight. So have to make kind of a nice shading things again. And then another thing is the natural ventilations, ecological point of view. Then we got an idea of this tower. The highest point is about 100 meters, but it has a huge void inside. So that void is creating natural ventilations, taking the cool air from the bottom and taking out the hot air. And these whole things are made by grids. You will see such kind of a strange shape of the arch, like this, but the basic geometry is a grid, like a serpentine. Small grids, sometimes a double-size grids or triple-size grids. So it's almost the same geometry as a serpentine, but so different size. And we put of course, this is Middle East, so we put this motif of the arch. So many arches, and sometimes circular shapes. Then we found out such kind of a repetition of the circle is creating the nice shadings and creating the particle of the lights coming into the inner voids. So that was the basic ideas. Starting from such a grid ideas, but expanding, not using the 40 centimeters, but 5 meter, 2.5 meter, 10 meters, and then stacking them up until the 100 meter. It is something so different, but still continuous concept on it. So this is the inner space, huge void, and a commercial space on the bottom, and of course many programs in betweens. But the main point is to create the layers of the grids, to create the sunshade and taking the airs, natural ventilations, something like that. So the whole view from we have a viewing deck on the upper part, so like a huge tent or tower or kind of a future city. And inside, huge void. And sometimes inside, you have a lake, and the ships is coming in, and the light is coming through. It's almost like a, crazy dream. But I thought I was so enjoying to do something beyond our usual design process, not like a private house scales, not like a 40 centimeter scales, but sometimes to expanding your imagination is quite exciting. To exploring to the unknown place. And yeah, something like that. It's quite beautiful. But unfortunately, the whole project suddenly stopped. The competition, no result, just the competition stopped. So everything is just vanishing. But of course, such kind of things happen in architectural design field. Sometimes the works, a huge amount of the works is going and end in a very, doing nothing happened. But I really enjoyed, and I realized one small ideas could be expanding to something beyond my own imaginations. And that makes me, energetic to try to do some other things, more and more new things. That was a very basic motivations for me. So that's the project I like. So I put some of the panels on the exhibition space, so you could see how seriously and how crazily we did this project. And then coming back to the, again, really small scales. This is a project in Taiwan. Taiwan climate, it's so different from Japan, even from Japan, and of course from US here. It's so tropical. It's humid and rains and sunlight. So when I got the commission to design a cafe, small cafe in Taiwan, I try to create something really inspired by such a different culture, different climate, like a Middle East project. If you have new site, new culture, it's very exciting to see something new for me. The Bedouin tent, I never knew about Bedouin tent, but it's nice shape. Or to think about the climate, different climate, so how to do with such kind of new situations. Then new ideas is coming. So I like to challenge such kind of a new situation, new culture, new areas, then we'll get the inspiration. Then in this case, it's Taiwan, cafes. So try to create something really, really inspired by Taiwan climate and Taiwan culture. And one of the inspiration is, again, this kind of a small street. This is typical Taiwan back street, walking around, it's almost like a 1.5 meter something. And then sometimes nice shops there. But it's similar to Tokyo, but different from Tokyo. It's more like more local, more, how to say, domestic atmosphere. So I try to use such kind of a concept of the pathway and make it three-dimensionally to create the shaded areas. So the concept of this many staircases are the three-dimensionalized small pathway of the Taiwan. Sometimes come together, split, and again go up and down, and they go through it. But all the formations are creating the nice shaded areas by that. So if you make it three-dimensional, then you could have kind of a space under the street, under the pathway. So that is the basic ideas. And then, of course, you have inside surrounded by glass, but you have many outside spaces. So in Taiwan, no strong inside and outside. It's more blaring than Japan. So we try to maximize such a feelings. And even the staircases you could sit on, and you could feel like sitting on the street and enjoying the cafe. And of course, we combine the whole things as trees. So on the surface of the staircases, you will be shaded by the trees. So nice combination of the trees and architecture in here. And this is now ongoing. Hopefully, the clients change the site because he really liked that idea. So he likes to move this project in more important areas of the city. So it's a bit strange situation, just one project to change the site, put it in a new place. But I visited the new site last year, and it's really in the middle of the center of the city. And it's really a rare case to have such an open space in such a dense downtown of the city. And it's creating the contrast of the volume, city of the volumes and the city of the void, and to provide such kind of forest-like things, natural forest and artificial forest, and of course three-dimensionalized small pathways in the middle of the downtown. So I'm really, really looking forward this project starts to go forward. So in that meanings, the concept of the pathway or melting city and architectures or using the grids or sometimes stepping things, everything is basic things is a kind of a continuous, but appearing in a very different way in architectural forms because of the interaction to the surroundings or interaction to the cultural background. Oh, that is a very exciting point to design architecture. I think architecture is really open, and I don't want to define my styles in a very specific way. It's more like try to open it and try to find out something new and adding on my concept to make it more rich and rich, to expanding more and more. So I have two more projects. So this is the realized project. And for now, this is the biggest realized project for me, the library in Tokyo. In here, I was thinking about try to create the forest, going back to the very, very beginning, the forest-like space by architectural things, by artificial method. fortunately, the site was surrounded by the many cherry blossom trees, but the architecture itself is super artificial. But now it's already, the blurring situation is happening. But the inside, the whole space are covered by the bookshelves. These libraries are made by bookshelves. The very beginning, this basic concept is this. Starting from the bookshelves, getting growing to make a space for people, and then finally it's getting the library. Because every time I get a project and I start to think about the project, I like to start from a very fundamental point. What is a library? The library is the place of the books. So, what is the dreamlike library? And I thought, only made by the bookshelves. Library only made by the bookshelves will be the really extreme definition of the library, I thought. So that was a very simple starting point. But at the same time, I was thinking about the experience of the library. And of course, you have to find the books. Should be very systematic. But at the same time, the nice experience in the library could be like a walking around in the library, like a walking around in the forest. And for no specific books to find, just by inspirations. And then finally, you could find some unexpected books, really special books, such kind of a romantic story I was thinking about. So I tried to create such kind of a forest-like library. That could be the really fundamental definition of a library, I thought. So how to make such kind of an experience made by such a bookshelves, so library by bookshelves like forest. And we made many, many openings on it. So if you make openings, then you will see the layers behind it. And then behind, such kind of infinite layers are created. That will be the key concept. Because in the forest, in my imaginations, you can continue to walking around because you could have some kind of a nice expectations behind the trees. Many layers of the trees, but then you will see some really bright areas behind the trees. What is happening behind that? Then you could continue to walk around. It's kind of an endless process. So if you can make such kind of a layers of the openings and bookshelves and openings, bookshelves, and almost endless. Some expectations, nice expectations, continuous expectations is coming from the space behind the wall. That would be the really special forest-like library, I thought. So then this spiral ideas is coming because if you make a spiral, then you can make a huge numbers of the layers of the spaces and no specific directions. The direction is always changing. So you will be, in a positive meaning, you will be lost in this forest of the libraries. And then finally, yeah, of course, even outside, you have a bookshelves covered by the glass. So it's like a, how to say, strange appearance of the inside and outside feelings. And then inside, these layers, big openings, and another areas, and another areas. If you go up, you have a bookshelves, but you will see space behind, and then space behind the walls. So you will be involved in such a continuity and sometimes blocked, such a situations. And we put the skylights, and we put the special polycarbonate ceilings on it. So the skylights are diffused and nicely, softly, and nice reflection is happening. So almost like no ceiling feelings, that just a cloud are floating above. It's of course, the bookshelf wall is very strong, and the contrast of the really floating or almost reflected ceilings and the strong bookshelves are creating such a openness of the experiences. And then you will see how this spiral things is vanishing on the end, and the spiral things is creating the space behind and farther behind. So that is creating the continuous expectations. And you walking around, and you couldn't see how big is this space, or how, even me, sometimes I feel I could find some unknown space behind this wall or behind that areas. And sometimes this happens. Students sleep. And the library is, I think, the definition of the, one strange definition of the library is the place to sleep. So it's okay. But I like this photo very much because she is so definitely sleeping, representing how comfortable this space is. But anyway, the important point of this photo is not her, but the scales. If you have a spiral, then the scales between each walls are nicely cozy small scales. This is about 4.5 meters something. So it's more like a scale of the house or private small cozy areas. But at the same time, you could see such kind of a vast spreading huge feelings of the scales. So in here, we have two opposite scales, cozy small scales and the huge endless scales together. And depending on your behaviors or depending on your feelings, you could choose each scales or between. If you like to sleep, you could choose more cozy space. And of course, we have a furniture, another layers of the scales. But anyway, the range of the scales is really, really rich, from the cozy space to the very, really endless space in a one simple system. And that is a very amazing point, I think, of this library. And huge, endless, you could walk through it, and reach to the end. But if you look back, you have another endless layers of this library. And then in the evening, outside is getting more dark, and the inside is kind of appearing. Okay, so this is the, so I think the library project is a bit, it is not white. It is more like a strange geometries, but still it has the same concept. Between smaller scales to the bigger scales, between inside and outside, and a really systematic way to make the categories and the more random way to walking around. Such kind of a dualities or blurring situations is happening. And the qualities of the space, of the forest is the key concept. And the last one is the project. We just won a competition last week in France. The south of France, there is a Montpellier, city of Montpellier. It's a beautiful city, but that city is the really challenging city, inviting many architects to make the new areas of the city. They have the old part, old city, but the surroundings are made by the many, many architects. And the city hall are designed by Jean Nouvel, and it's already finished. And Philip Stalk is now doing something. And recently, the last year, the Bjarke Engels, the big, won a competition to design some museums. So they are doing such kind of a, not only keeping the old areas, but more challenging to the futures. And they planned one competition to design a housing. It could be it is a 55-meter high, it's a really high, tall buildings in the Montpellier city. Should be the landmark and important landmark for the future. And it is a competition to collaborate with the developer and the local architects and the international architects. That should be the one team. And we send documents for the pre-qualifications. And unfortunately, we are selected as one of the three finalists. And then last week we did a competition, presentations, and we got the announcement that we won. But the official announcement will be done next week, on the 5th. So on these images, please no Twitter, no Facebook yet. After 5th of the March, yeah, you can do it. And the basic concept, again, are inspired by the Montpellier city and culture. Yeah, as you can imagine, the south of France, really nice climate, and they are enjoying the life. And the local architects says the life, quality of life of Montpellier is like a life on outside, on the terrace, the cafes, good climate, so no only inside, but living outside, inside, or mainly outside like that. So the basic idea is very simple, just to make the huge terrace, huge balconies on the 55-meter high buildings, sticking out like a huge creatures, like things, like this. This is a 16-story high, and many, many balconies sticking out. And some of them are just like a pergola, not balconies, but most of the house at least have 2-3 balconies on it. Then you could maximize the quality of life of Montpellier by these balconies. So it is a new but old typology of the housing. These balconies, huge balconies, is not new things. It's a more traditional things and fitting to their lifestyle. But how we can putting together in such a dense situations, it's something new for them, but still representing the life of Montpellier as a whole architecture. And the plot is, this is the drawings. So it's like a 60-meter sticking out, the maximum 60 meter, sorry, 60 meter. 6 meters sticking out, and one house, 1 or 2 balconies, and to every different directions. So almost like a floating balconies, life on the air is happening, and nicely shaded by pergola sometimes, and sometimes nicely protecting the privacies somehow. So it is a very long-term competition. So not just one simple ideas, but we have developed the nice way to block the privacies, or nice way to keep your staffs on the terraces, or of course the plannings on the apartment has been done very, very carefully and nicely. The whole thing is like this. And this is just next to the river. And the whole strategy is to keep the continuity of the green on this direction. So the shape of the plan are defined by such a context to keep the greens on the rivers nicely, and then the greens belt is going this directions. Or to keep the view from the building here clear, so we set back from the river a lot to have such kind of a organic shape of the plan. So this is I don't know how to describe it, but we called it like a white tree. It's like a tree, or it's like an animal, but it's like an icon of the life of Montpellier. And the city government, the city mayor was so pleased to see it as a kind of a new typology of the Mediterranean housings. Because in Europe, of course, especially in Northern Europe, the ecological architecture is using the heavy glass and defining inside clearly and strongly, nicely blocked the cold weather. But in here, the south of France, Mediterranean areas, the ecological life is different from the Northern Europe. So we proposed the new definition of the ecological buildings, more taking the outside, inside, exchanging, or treat terraces inside equally to make the more enjoyable life, even in such a high-rise buildings. Of course, if you're in a low on the ground, it's possible to have a cafe, nice terraces, but in such a high-rise buildings, but it's possible. We try to create, it's possible to have the richness of the life in the Mediterranean countries. So that could be, the design will be done within this year, and the construction start maybe next year. So this could be the biggest project for me in Europe, and hopefully this will be done in nicely like this image. Okay, so this is a final image. Again, something between, I was talking about something between some other things. It is a nice way to think about something new. We know, if we know nature, architecture, then we could think about something between nature and architecture. Nobody knows what it is, but that is challenging to find out something new. Or furniture and architecture, it's a bit simple and easier, but inside and outside, like this, or like Montpellier, nature and architecture. Every time we have such kind of a basic definitions, and starting from such kind of basic definitions, we can make something new, unknown things. And every time we challenge, we can find it. Inspired by the different culture, different requirements, or different lifestyle, then our simple ideas is getting expanding to be something beyond our own imaginations. That is the most exciting point of architecture design, communicating with the whole world to creating your ideas more and more.